Hi everyone, welcome to English for You. I'm Kat.
And I'm Reese.
And today we have a literature article for you. Literally for you, haha. So actually, as you might know, sometimes our literature articles are about very sad stories. This one is kind of the same.
Yeah, it's not terribly happy, but again, it's something important.
Yes, and it's not as horrible as some of the other ones we've told.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, it's not
so
too bad.
It's still about an important event in history. So we hope that you will learn a lot about this with us. It's a story called A Night Divided by Jennifer Nielsen. And so it's about something that happened kind of recently, maybe 60 years ago.
Yeah, it spans a big chunk of time, and it was up until the year 1989.
Yes, which is right after I was born.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's have a look at this article and learn something about history.
Okay.
Reading. A Night Divided. Goethe might be a child, but she can tell something is deeply wrong in East Berlin. The rules are getting stricter, the adults seem worried, and people keep disappearing. Recently, Goethe has heard her parents talking in quiet voices about escaping to West Berlin. However, when her father and middle brother Dominic cross the border to look for jobs, they don't come back. A few days later, Goethe wakes up to a terrible surprise. During the night, East German soldiers have begun building a wall along the border between East and West Berlin. A deadly line of barbed wire and guns now divides her family. Goethe wishes to be reunited with her father and brother, but it is highly dangerous for her to try and sneak across. She could easily be shot. One day, Goethe is walking home past the wall when she sees her father waving to her from a viewing platform. He's alive. Goethe's father begins acting out a message to her. Is that a shovel? Is he telling me to dig under the wall?
Okay, well, today's article begins by saying, Goethe might be a child, but she can tell something is deeply wrong in East Berlin.
Okay. Children are often smarter than we think.
They are. We should listen more to what they say.
Yes.
East Berlin, by the way, is a place in Germany.
Well, it is still a place in Germany, but it kind of used to be called East Berlin and isn't anymore.
It's complicated, but the article is going to explain it for us.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go on and learn more about the story of this girl. So we know her name is Goethe, she's in East Berlin, Germany, and she knows something is wrong. The rules are getting stricter, the adults seem worried, and people keep disappearing.
That sounds pretty scary.
Yeah, that does sound scary. So what are we talking about with rules being strict or stricter? Here we have our first vocabulary word. It's strict. It's an adjective that means having rules that are hard and fast. Means if you break them even a little bit, you will be punished, and usually you'll be punished very, very harshly. Think about if you have a strict teacher. That teacher doesn't allow late homework, you'll get a 0. She doesn't let kids talk in class without raising their hands, they will be yelled at. You can't mess around, you can't have any fun because your teacher is very strict. They want you to stay controlled. Strict rules in a country, though, might mean you shouldn't talk against the government, don't show certain flags or certain images or pictures, and don't protest. So you don't have a lot of freedom. Basically, strict means having less freedom. So it means people are watched very closely. Yeah. And an example sentence for strict might be, my mom was very strict with me and my sisters growing up. We couldn't stay out late or go out with friends, and we had to study all the time. Oh, that sounds miserable.
Yeah, I had strict teachers at school, but luckily my parents were not so strict.
I think my situation was the same.
Yeah.
We
have another word here, which is disappear, and it's a verb, and it means to vanish, to not be there anymore, or to go missing. If something disappears, that means it suddenly goes away. You can't see it anymore. A magician might be good at making things disappear, like rabbits, or make them appear. The opposite of disappear is appear. Take away the dis. If something appears, that means it suddenly comes back into existence. It was gone before, but now it's there again.
Oh.
So here's an example sentence with disappear. The big typhoon over Taipei disappeared within a few minutes because of the high winds.
Ah, so the winds were blowing it very, very quickly across,
Yes.
and so now it's gone.
It's gone. It's not there anymore.
Okay.
Well, the article continues and it says, recently, Goethe has heard her parents talking in quiet voices about escaping to West Berlin.
Oh.
Let's talk about that.
I wonder.
We have another verb here, and it's the word escape. To escape means to break free or break out of a place that you are stuck in or being kept in. We use the word escape when someone or something gets out of a place they probably don't want to be in. If you have an animal in a cage, it might try to escape, or a prisoner kept in prison might escape from their cell. Here's an example sentence. My cat is always trying to escape from the apartment to catch the birds outside.
All right, so they're thinking of escaping to West Berlin.
Yes.
Of course, you have East Berlin and West Berlin. But isn't Berlin one city?
Oh, well, it is now, but before, maybe not.
Oh, interesting. I wonder what is so bad about East Berlin that they want to get to West Berlin. Okay.
I think the article will explain it for us.
Yeah, okay. So she's hearing her parents whisper about escaping to West Berlin. However, when her father and middle brother Dominic cross the border to look for jobs, they don't come back. Oh,
That's
man.
scary.
Yeah, that is pretty scary. If your family members go away and then they don't come back and you don't know where they are, that's a really bad thing. It can be very worrisome.
And it's not like you can ask them on Facebook or something because
Right.
this is a long time ago before smartphones were around or even the internet.
Yeah, and if the rules are very strict, you might not be able to talk to them anyway.
Yes.
So what are we talking about crossing the border? Now, a border is a noun that means a line between two places or two ideas. It's the edge of a place. So every country has borders, even if the border is the ocean. Taiwan's borders are all ocean because Taiwan is an island. But you can also talk about borders of your property. If you have a house somewhere and you have a line between your house and your neighbor's house, that is your border, the border between your houses. And you can also talk about the borders of cities. For example, the border between East Berlin and West Berlin. You can see these on a map usually. There are lines drawn around a country or around a city. Now, you can also talk about the borders between ideas, the line between two things that are different. So some people say the border between love and hate is very thin. Or if you talk about crossing the border, you might mean you're going to a different country. You can also talk about border as a verb. For example, what it's next to. China borders Mongolia, Vietnam, and some other countries. China has a border with Vietnam and Mongolia.
Yeah, 14 countries in total.
Really?
China's
I didn't know
huge,
that.
yeah.
That's so big. I mean, the US is really big, but it only borders two countries, in Mexico and Canada. And actually, that's our example sentence. The line between the US and Canada is the longest border in the world.
That's true.
Yeah.
Interesting
that's cool.
fact.
Yeah. You would think it'd be Russia, but actually Russia has several other countries underneath it.
That's right. It's got a long border, but with many different places.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well, the article continues. It says, a few days later, Goethe wakes up to a terrible surprise.
A terrible birthday party?
Not a good kind of surprise, like a birthday party. I think this is something bad.
Uh-oh.
Well, let's talk about the phrase wake up here. To wake up means to change from being asleep to being awake and probably very tired. If you wake up to something, it means that the thing is there when you wake up or is the reason that you wake up. So in the article, Goethe wakes up to a terrible surprise. That means when she wakes up, she discovers something horrible has happened.
Oh no.
Let's find out what that horrible thing is.
I hope that her father and brother are okay.
I hope so too.
Yeah, so the article says, during the night, East German soldiers have begun building a wall along the border between East and West Berlin.
Oh dear.
Okay, so her father and brother are probably in West Berlin. They can't get back now if there's a wall there. And we're talking also about East German soldiers, which means there's an entire East Germany.
Yes.
Yes. I think I'm getting a picture now.
Yeah, two very different places, and they're about to become even more different because of this wall between the two. Well, the article tells us more. It says, a deadly line of barbed wire and guns now divides her family.
So this isn't just a wall.
It's not just a wall, it's more than a wall, and it's something very dangerous. Let's talk about why it's so dangerous.
Okay.
Okay, two pretty scary words to talk about here. First, let's talk about the adjective deadly. If something is deadly, that means it is so dangerous that it could kill you. You can see the word there, dead, in deadly. There are many deadly things in this world. Guns are deadly. Some snakes can be deadly if they bite you. And electricity can be deadly if you're not careful with it. So please be careful out there. The other word to discuss is barbed wire. Barbed wire is a kind of metal wire that has been made intentionally with lots of sharp metal points sticking out. It's designed to keep people out of a place. If you touch barbed wire, you could cut yourself. You'll often see it surrounding secret places or private property. If you see barbed wire on a fence or a wall, it means do not enter.
All right, so barbed wire and guns on a wall.
That's a dangerous wall.
Yeah, so clearly they don't want anyone going in or out of East Germany.
That's true.
Man, I wonder what West Germany is like.
Could be better, could be worse. I think we'll find out.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously now we're talking about a word that we actually saw in the title of this article and of the book. Divide. It divides them. So divide is a verb that means to, well, it can mean certain things. It can mean cut something in half, like with a knife, or if you're using a math problem to cut a number in half. But if you're dividing something from something else, it means you're keeping those two things apart. You're separating them. So Goethe cannot see her father and brother because they're on the other side of a wall. The wall is dividing them. They're being kept away from each other by that object. Like I said, you can also say separate. That is a synonym for divide. Now, usually dividing is done by things like fences, or you could be divided by a long distance if it's very hard for you to get to each other through that distance, or basically anything else that's hard to cross, like barbed wire. So here's an example for divide. A tall fence divides my yard from my neighbor's yard, but I can still hear what is happening there.
Ooh, cat the nosy neighbor.
Yeah, sticking my eye in the hole of the fence.
Yes, sometimes dividing is necessary, like if you have property, you want to divide it by showing other people where is your land.
The line?
Yeah, where's the line? But this divide
You could divide it with like flowers or something nice too.
Yeah. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Don't step over these flowers, please.
Yes.
Well, the article continues. It says, Goethe wishes to be reunited with her father and brother, but it is highly dangerous for her to try and sneak across. She could easily be shot.
Yep, by those people with guns.
Okay, so there's barbed wire and people with guns on the wall to stop people from moving across. Scary.
Yeah, very scary, especially for a child.
Right, and her father and her brother are gone. She doesn't know if she'll see them again. There are two more words here to talk about. The first is reunited. So to unite something means to bring things together. So to reunite means to bring things together that were previously separated or divided.
Yeah, it's kind of the opposite of divide.
Exactly, to reunite. We'll often use this phrase to describe people who haven't seen each other in a long time, or people who were forced apart for some reason, like Goethe and her family. When they get back together, they are reunited.
Yay!
It's lovely. I
好
remember
久不见.
Yeah, reading stories on the news about people whose homes were destroyed by hurricanes and then they lost their pet. But days later, their pet turns up and they are reunited.
I love those stories.
Happy ending. The second word was sneak. And sneak is a verb, and to sneak means to move quietly so as not to be seen or heard. If you want to go downstairs in the middle of the night to steal chocolate from the refrigerator,
Maybe you shouldn't do that.
Guilty. You'd better sneak or your parents might hear you. In the article, they talk about Goethe maybe sneaking across the border. That means going over the wall without being discovered.
Over the wall?
Ooh, maybe there's another way.
Yeah, maybe so. So we're actually going to find that out later on in the article. But first we have to look at this grammar point. It is highly dangerous for her. All right, we have this sentence here and we have this certain grammar point. It is dangerous for her to try and sneak across, or it is highly dangerous. Now, we can kind of break this down as it is adjective for somebody to verb. We call this a dummy subject. We're talking about the word it there. So it doesn't actually mean anything from the last sentence. It's talking about the action in the sentence that it's in. In this case, to try and sneak across. That's what it means. We also use dummy subjects when we're talking about things like weather. Like we say, it is raining. What's raining? We don't care. Just say, it is raining. It is very hot. That is another way to use it. But here we are talking about people's actions or thoughts with a for and a verb. So we have a longer kind of grammar. So here's a more simple example. It is hard for me to hear you. Means I can't hear you very well. It might sound tricky at first if you say, it is hard for me to hear. It sounds like you might have a hard time hearing it. So it, I can't hear it very well. It is hard for me to hear, but that's not what it means. But you at the end shows that's not the sentence. It means to hear you. So we can change it like this. To hear you is hard for me. But we don't like talking this way. It sounds weird. So instead we put it at the front. So how about we do the same to the sentence in the article? To try and sneak across is highly dangerous for her. Again, kind of weird, so we put an it in the front instead. It is highly dangerous for her to try and sneak across. In other words, sneaking across the wall is highly dangerous.
All right, well then the article continues. It says, one day Goethe is walking home past the wall when she sees her father waving to her from a viewing platform.
There's a viewing platform?
Well, that's
And he's waving!
something I didn't expect this wall to have, but
Yeah.
maybe he's just across the wall and anyway, she can see him.
Oh, okay.
Which is good news for her because she
Yeah.
knows that he's alive.
That's very good news. So it might mean her brother's okay too.
Yeah, I hope so.
I hope so. And yeah, the article shows how surprised she is. He's alive! Gerda's father begins acting out a message to her. I can kind of see how he might be doing this. He might be using his hands or something like that, or his arms, or maybe some flags, like semaphore. But anyway, you get the idea now from what we're doing that act out means kind of, you know, doing something to show your meaning through words. Usually acting out actually means behaving badly. Like if you are acting out, it means you're being kind of a bad kid, like a peahi. But here it means using your body and your actions to give someone a message. Like when you play charades, you are acting out a word.
Love that game.
All right, so what is he acting out?
Well, the article will tell us. It says, is that a shovel? Is he telling me to dig under the wall?
What?
Okay, so if we're talking about a shovel here, which is our last vocabulary word, we can imagine he's doing an action like this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the mime for a shovel. Well, shovel is a noun, and a shovel is a tool that we use in the yard or outside to dig holes in the earth. It usually has a long wooden handle and a flat metal spade at the bottom.
Like a pointy bit.
Yeah, pointy bit. It digs. You push it into the ground with your foot and dig up the earth and throw it behind you. So an example sentence with shovel could be, we used a shovel to dig a deep hole in the ground. Then we buried the tree sapling inside.
Oh, so you're planting a tree.
Planting a tree, saving the earth.
Yeah, that's a good use for a shovel. When you're gardening, you might use a shovel. There's also a little tiny shovel you can hold in your hand called a trowel.
Trowel, yeah. Like a mini shovel. A shovel for ants.
All right, so now we're getting the idea that Goethe's father has a plan.
Hopefully they can be reunited at some point. I think we'll probably find out tomorrow what happens in East and West Berlin.
Yeah, we're leaving you on a very stressful point. We're not going to tell you what happens next until tomorrow. So that means right now we're going to go to our For You chat.
For You chat.
All right, our For You chat question for today is a little bit of a serious one. Have you ever been separated from your family? What would you do if you were Goethe?
Have I been separated from my family? Well, the answer is yes, but not in the scary bad way that Goethe has been.
Yeah.
I chose to leave England almost 10 years ago to move to Asia, where I've been living for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So I've been separated from my family, but I go home usually once a year.
Yeah.
And I call home regularly.
You still can see them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So maybe separated is not the right word, because separated kind of indicates maybe that there's not much choice involved.
Right.
I've not been with my family permanently for a very long time.
When you grow up, you leave town sometimes.
You get independent and you learn to live by yourself.
Yeah.
What would I do if I was Goethe? That's a very hard question. As a small child in this time that we're talking about, there's not much that she really could have done.
Right, because, maybe she doesn't have a lot of power. She doesn't really know what's happening. She just knows that kind of bad things are happening.
Yeah, I'd probably spend a lot of time crying.
Yeah.
So Kat, same question to you. Have you been separated from your family? I think I know the answer.
I think I kind of have a similar thing to you, but I think the closest thing for me would have been when, my parents separated. Maybe that was, a really hard time because I couldn't see my dad for a while. But then they actually got back together later, so yeah.
Oh, that's an unusual story.
Yeah, I mean, they're divorced now, but they had divorced when I was an adult.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Right, so when we say two people have separated, we mean that they were previously maybe married or living together, and then
now they're not, but they're not married yet. Yeah, it means they're still married, but they're not living together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, complicated.
Yeah, it is.
Well, maybe you guys can think about this question. Have you ever spent time away from your family? Maybe you go to a boarding school, or maybe you took a school trip or a vacation without your family.
Yeah, how did that feel for you? So there's a lot of things you can talk about, and for us, we're going to see you in day 2 and continue this story. Hopefully good things will happen and not bad things. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.
A Night Divided. Goethe might be a child, but she can tell something is deeply wrong in East Berlin. The rules are getting stricter, the adults seem worried, and people keep disappearing. Recently, Goethe has heard her parents talking in quiet voices about escaping to West Berlin. However, when her father and middle brother Dominic cross the border to look for jobs, they don't come back. A few days later, Goethe wakes up to a terrible surprise. During the night, East German soldiers have begun building a wall along the border between East and West Berlin. A deadly line of barbed wire and guns now divides her family. Goethe wishes to be reunited with her father and brother, but it is highly dangerous for her to try and sneak across. She could easily be shot. One day, Goethe is walking home past the wall when she sees her father waving to her from a viewing platform. He's alive. Gerta's father begins acting out a message to her. Is that a shovel? Is he telling me to dig under the wall?
Vocabulary Review. Strict. Grace's parents are quite strict, and they insist that she return home by 9 p.m. every day. Disappear. After her cat disappeared, Angela put up posters with his picture on them on the street. Escape. A tiger escaped from its cage in the zoo and ran out into the street. Border. You'll need to present your passport at the border to enter the country. Divide. A river divides the city into two parts, the north and the south. Shovel. There was snow on the ground, so Billy got out the shovel and cleared the street.
字汇小补帖
Deadly. Barbed wire. Reunite. Sneak.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作，活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net